Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across our great state of Michigan. And this is the first Outdoor Magazine radio show of the month of December. We made it through Rocktober. We made it through Rutvember, and now we're into December. Oh, and we made it through Thanksgiving. Now Christmas is staring us right in the face. New Year coming up. We are certainly in the heart of the holiday season. Oh, make the most of it. Have fun. Hope you get a chance to get together with your family and friends. And I hope you get a chance to get either out on the water or out on the ice, more likely now, or out in the woods. Boy, the weather did certainly change, didn't it? Mother Nature, Old Man Winter, decided they were going to show up a little bit. I don't want to say early, right? But earlier than we're used to. I would not be surprised if you're ice fishing before too long. The pond behind the house is frozen. Now, I realize that's a small body of water and it's fairly shallow and it freezes fast. The good thing about the pond freezing is the geese are gone. If there's no open water there for them to land on, they're gone. I mean, they didn't go far, but I don't care where they went. As long as they left, I'm good. And you goose hunters, you just didn't do a very good job this year. I'm very disappointed in you folks. My grandson Trent is he's new to goose hunting, but he's falling in love with it. And he comes over to the house, and we're just inside the city limits, so the geese can't be hunted. And that's one of the reasons why they congregate there, right? So he looks out the back window, and there's probably 200 geese out there in the pond. He's like, oh, man, those things are driving me crazy. I get it. All right, so how did your deer season go? Your Michigan firearm deer season, which, as you know, ended here, a few days ago. Now, as you're hearing the radio show, we're into the muzzleloader season, which muzzleloader season isn't really a muzzleloader season anymore, right? Is it? I mean, I'm going to be out there with my 350 Legend, so isn't it really just a continuation of the firearm season? But let's look at some of the numbers. And what do numbers mean? You know, you've got liars, you've got damn liars, and then you've got statisticians. So let's not put too much emphasis on numbers. Okay, as of early December 2025, so this is after the firearm season, Michigan DNR reports the regular firearm season final harvest numbers, 126,660 deer statewide. 80,000 of them were antlered, 46,000 does or antlerless. Overall, 2025 season, fewer harvests compared to the 136,000 in 2024 and the 155,000 in 2022. Compared to previous years, 2024, 136,000, 2022, 154,000, 2025, 126,000. Top counties, no surprise here. Sanilac, Menominee, Saginaw. Let me see if I can open this up a little bit more. I wanted to see some of the other counties as well. But the usual suspects, right? The DNR, the UP is down. What do these numbers mean? We actually had, what did we have? I think we had a 1% increase in the number of licenses sold. Well, that's nothing. So what do the numbers mean? I don't know. I'm not going to try to pretend to tell you I know what the numbers mean, because what do I always say about deer hunting in Michigan? It is a very personal endeavor. You don't care what the statewide numbers are. You only care what your season was like. For example, for me, finally, the last night of the firearm season, I had my first legal, well, not including a fawn. I wasn't going to shoot a fawn. My first semi-adult deer in front of me. The last night of the firearm season, I had 2 spikes in front of me. One of them a nice spike, one of them a very small spike. I opted not to shoot those spikes, but it took me all of bow season and hunting pretty hard during the firearm season to finally, the last night of the season, have a legal target in front of me, but it wasn't an animal I wanted to shoot. So for me, who have not had a shot at an animal I want to take, meaning an adult doe, I haven't even had the opportunity all season long. For me, the season from a harvest perspective is very disappointing. I don't care what the numbers show. I don't care what, it doesn't matter to me. My season so far has been very disappointing from a harvest perspective. Now, from an overall perspective, I've had a lot of fun. I've been out there. I have enjoyed the experience. I've been out there with my son, James. I've been out there with my grandkids, Trent and Addison. They've taken deer. James took a nice deer down in Illinois. So, from that perspective, it's been great. The family experience, the sharing of the history and tradition of deer hunting in Michigan has been wonderful. I do want to put a doe in the freezer. And again, you can say, Avery, you are a terrible hunter. Okay. Because probably where you're hunting, you're seeing all kinds of does. If you're hunting farmland, you're seeing all kinds of does. But I'm not. I'm not hunting farmland. I'm hunting 160 acres of lease property, and we are blessed to have this lease property. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Pam. We appreciate it. I appreciate it so very much. But it's not really ideal whitetail habitat. There's no reason for those deer to be in there unless we give them a reason. Now, one way to encourage deer on that property would be to use bait. I can't hunt over bait. Baiting is illegal. Do I think we should be allowed to use bait? Yeah. If the DNR wants us to shoot more deer, and they say they do, particularly more does, then give us the tools to do that. They've given us tools by making the muzzleloader season basically a centerfire rifle season for the Lower Peninsula. More on that coming up here later in the show. And I will take advantage of that. And hopefully, if I'm persistent enough, I'll be able to take a nice doe. They said, well, if you can't bait, so put in food plots. We did put in food plots. When I say we, my son James. But they just did not do the job. And I have a lot of questions about that. And we'll talk more with Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots later in the hour about that. Because they just didn't attract deer like you see on the TV shows. You say you put in a food plot and you're watching deer pour into these food plots the entire season, mature does, and they bring nice bucks with them into the food plot. Well, not necessarily. And we, James, put a lot of time and effort into these food plots. So that's no guarantee either. So I don't know. I can tell you one thing. We will be doing things differently for the food plots next year. I'm not quite sure what that will look like, but we will have to do something different in order to attract and hold deer on this property. What the answer is, I don't know. I can tell you I have not given up. It is kind of a goal now of mine to put a doe in the freezer sometime here in these next few weeks. That is the remainder of the Michigan deer season. And, from your perspective, you might say, well, that's an easy goal. I mean, that's a no-brainer. You might be saying when you go out there, you see a half dozen does every night. Well, God bless you. I'm maybe a little jealous. But the season's not over yet. So Statewide, the harvest is down a little bit or significantly, depending on what year you compare it to. Why? I don't know. I'm sure the experts, I'm sure the DNR biologists will have reasons on why it's down. I'm sure the online experts, and Lord knows there are a bunch of those, a lot of deer hunting experts online. All you got to do is go to Facebook or any place online, and you'll find them, and they'll tell you they're experts, and they'll tell you why the harvest is down. Maybe they're right, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know why. But it is what it is. Coming up on this week's show after the break, Jeania Canel of Jay's Sporting Goods. We want to talk about suppressors. Now, my Brenton 350 Legend does have a suppressor on it. I couldn't tell you how loud it is from the deer season, but it is suppressed. After the first of the year, there are some changes to the suppressor laws. Jeania will talk about that. Then, as I said, Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots. Maybe your food plots didn't perform as you had hoped. Well, we're going to talk with Rich about that. We're going to come up with a game plan for next year. In our second hour, Joe Marion, retired Coast Guardsman, talking about being safe in cold water near freezing conditions, specifically ice. Then Steve Wyndham of MUCC checks in. This week's Ask Avery segment features Sergeant Mike Mshar from the DNR, talking about what gun can you use during the muzzleloader season, and the answer might surprise you. And in our third hour, Richard P. Smith talks about his deer season, seeing a lot of bears and more, and we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. And north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by VersaSkins, Michigan-based family-owned VersaSkins. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute? I mean, it makes complete sense, right? If you need big sizes, I'm talking 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins is for you. They sell those sizes as soon as they can make them. And if you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins also makes jackets specifically for saddle hunters. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Or go to amazon.com and do a search for VersaSkins brand on Amazon. VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. I love that. You know what else I love? I love the fact that I have been blessed to work with Jay's Sporting Goods and the people there since this whole thing started. Jay's, the late Kathy Poet, was the first person, the first company that said, Avery, we believe in you and we will support you and we will help you. And for that reason, I have been loyal to Jay's and the people there for the last 40 or so years. Now, Jeania Canel, she's been at Jay's for a long time, but she's not old enough to be there 40 years because Gina's like 25 years old, maybe 30 now. But she's the manager of the gun department of their Clare store, and she joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jeania, welcome back. How are you?
I am good, Mike. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to talk to you. How are things going in the gun department?
Good. We've been busy, had a good Black Friday, getting prepped for the Christmas season, and then we'll roll right into a new year.
And supply, you've got guns, you've got ammo. That's not a problem anymore, right? We've worked through that. We've worked that through the system. Good.
Yep, we have.
Jeania, a couple of years ago, I came to you guys to get a suppressor for my 350 Legend, my Brenton 350 Legend, and I was very pleased at the process. At the time, it took me only 3 weeks to get my approval and to get all the paperwork done, but I understand it's even faster today.
Yeah, that's correct. They've definitely figured out the process, so to speak, and right now we're setting at anywhere from 72 plus hours on a turnaround.
That's You mean from the time I come in and start the process with you there at Jay's until I get the paperwork and the suppressor in my hands, 3 days or less?
3 days or more, Mike.
Or more.
We would like to think it would be less, but yes, 72 hours plus is what we're seeing right now. And there's a lot that can go into that. So that's not a standard, but that's kind of what we're seeing, at this point in the game.
I'm hearing from a lot of people who say there are big changes coming up regarding suppressors after the first. I hear a lot of rumors. You're right there in the middle of it, Jeania. What do you see? What's going to happen after the first of the year?
Well, basically, after the first of the year, what we're going to see is that the fee for the tax stamp will go away. So that's a $205 fee that will no longer be there for the consumer when they want to purchase a suppressor. It doesn't really speed up anything with the process. So I think what you're going to see is with that tax stamp fee going away is more people buying, which means more work for the ATF to do these background checks. So, like you said, a lot of speculation, a lot of talk out there, but the Form 4 is still there, the fingerprinting, the picture, the process is still there. The certification, the background check is still there. So all of that stuff is still in place. You can't just walk in to a dealer and buy a suppressor over the counter and walk out the same day.
Now, that tax stamp, that's not a fee that went to you guys at Jay's. The feds took that money, right?
Correct. Yep. We didn't get any.
So what is the process? I mean, now and after the first, if I want to get a suppressor, number one, I guess I have to make sure that my rifle is set up for a suppressor, meaning that it'll affix to the barrel, right?
Correct. So you need a threaded barrel. Not a huge option, but again, that's going to be part of the timing process. Is if you don't have a gun that isn't already threaded, there are gunsmiths out there that will thread them for you if your gun is able to have that done. So you need to kind of do your homework before you come in. It's like I said, it is a process. So make sure that the gun that you want to put it on is set up for that. Muzzleloaders come threaded now, shotguns, rifles, pistols. So there's a huge gamut of things that you can put suppressors on or may want to have, if it doesn't come pre-threaded, have them threaded if it can be done by a gunsmith. So lots of options out there for that. The other thing is, a suppressor, and my knowledge of the actual cans are not quite as good as my staff. So I'm very blessed with a staff that has way more knowledge on a lot of the technical stuff of the cans. But as far as, some cans you can use on multiple firearms. So you don't have to have one for every single gun if the can is compatible for more calibers. So that's always a nice feature. So do your homework on that. Do you have more than one gun that you'd like a specific, suppressor to go on? So come in with stuff that we can, because we're going to ask questions so that we know exactly what you need. There's accessories that you may need depending on what type of suppressor you want. Is it a direct thread? Is it, different? There's just all kinds of things that go into it. We have multiple different manufacturers, prices that range anywhere from, for a 22 can, they're pretty inexpensive. So somewhere in that $300-400 range for the 22 cans, and then they can go up beyond $1,000. So a couple $1,000s in some cases. So lots of things to do before you just come in to think about. But definitely, if you have questions, I have a great staff that can answer the questions. Many of them own the suppressors. They've used them, so they've had them in the field. They know what they're talking about. So we're here to help.
And we appreciate that. The suppressor I have for my 350, my Brenton 350 Legend, can be used for a 350 and smaller calibers as well. So I appreciate you bringing that up. But also, that is the license on that suppressor. From my understanding, and I keep it in my gun case, I have to keep that license available if a law enforcement officer would want to check on that. Does that go away, or will they still be licensed after the first of the year?
No, the requirements to follow have not gone away for owning a suppressor. The only thing that went away, from what my understanding is the cost of the tax stamp.
Gotcha.
I do believe that somewhere on that form, the Form 4, there is still going to be, I would almost think, that there will still be a stamp, if you will, that's marked approved at the bottom on a Form 4. Now, I was talking with my colleague up in Gaylord about this because we're trying to think what needs to be changed on the Form 4. Really, there's a spot that you check for the fee of the tax stamp on that form. So that wouldn't need to be there anymore. But other than that, I can't see what they really need to change.
So we have to make sure that our gun will accept suppressor, silencer, can, whatever you want to call it. And it doesn't silence the gun. It just makes it quieter. Then we walk into Jay's. Do you still have that kiosk that I used a couple of years ago? How does that work?
Yep. So we still have a silencer shop kiosk, which a kiosk basically walks you through the process, and it's linked to our FFL. If you go to Gaylord, they're going to have their own that's linked to their FFL. We won't get into too much technical, but so that walks you through your Form 4, fingerprinting, picture, the whole 9 yards. We also have a new machine that we're going to start putting customers on called the Cerberus. Does the same thing, just a different company, a little different usage for us by going to that as far as the information that's captured. Anyway, so everything is done right here in house as far as getting you from picking out your can to putting it in layaway. It has to be put in layaway. Like I said, you don't walk out with it that day. And then there's a part where you have to register on the ATF website. That's going to give you a username and a PIN number that you're going to use to certify your Form 4. And everything is done here. So we walk you through the whole process. We get everything done. Now, with the new Cerberus unit that we have, we certify here in-house. So that's a little less waiting time than using the silencer shop kiosk, because we had to wait for them to view the form, to make sure it was prepped properly, and then there was a certification. So there could have been a couple-day wait in there between those two processes taking place. The Cerberus machine, we certify right on the spot. So that takes it,
I'm buying the suppressor, though, from Jay's. I'm just using this other company to do the process. I'm not buying from Silencer Shop or Cerberus. I'm buying it from Jay's Sporting Goods.
Correct. Now, just a little caveat to that. You can actually buy out of Silencer Shop's inventory and have that sent here and then come in and finish out the process with us. So that's always been an option with that company and the kiosk. But Cerberus, that option we don't have. So that's just more the paperwork, the processing with that machine.
And you've got a good selection of cans.
A lot of moving.
Yeah, I can see there's a lot of moving parts.
We have a lot of selections.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hang tight, Jeania. Listen,
and we are set on.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yes, we are set on inventory at this point.
Excellent. I would suspect that I don't want to screw up your Christmas sales, but I think a lot of people are going to wait till after the 1st to do this. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Jeanie Canel of Jay's Sporting Goods, the website jaysportinggoods.com, jaysportinggoods.com. After the break, I want to change direction a little bit. And I'm going to ask Jeania, does anybody still buy a muzzleloader anymore? I mean, after all, in the Lower Peninsula, we can use a rifle. That's coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM 95.3 FM and north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM. The segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, whether soft water or hard water. They can also be your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com, linwoodbeachmarina.com. You're going to want to stay in touch with the folks at Linwood Beach to see what conditions are out there right now. I mean, as I'm in the studio right now, I don't even know if the boat launch is still open. It might be. I can tell you this. The folks at Linwood Beach will keep that launch open as long as Mother Nature allows, and then they'll make the transition over to ice fishing here eventually. LinwoodBeachMarina.com, LinwoodBeachMarina.com. Also want you to keep in mind JaySportingGoods.com. Jay's Sporting Goods, Michigan's original family-owned outdoor superstore. Jeania Canel is the manager of the gun department at Jay's Clare store. Jeania, as folks are hearing this show, the muzzleloader season is open, but I think a lot of folks are going to be out there, myself included, with a centerfire rifle. What is the demand for muzzleloaders these days? Is it just completely gone?
No, it's not completely gone. You still have the diehards that love it, breathe it. That's what they want to do. So I'm kind of one of those too. I love black powder hunting in the season. But no, we still have product out here. We have a full aisle of it from several different manufacturers. We have accessories and firearms and that kind of thing. So no, it's still going. Not as strong as we've seen it many years ago before all the center fire usage and straight wall stuff. And that's changed a lot too. But no, it's still good.
So are the folks who are buying muzzleloading equipment, are they buying the traditional stuff like the flintlocks and the percussion caps, or are they buying the newer inline muzzleloaders?
And then it's mainly the newer inline stuff is what we see. We might sell 2 or 3 of the flintlocks a year, and it's not much. We do carry some kits that they can put together, and people like to tinker with that kind of stuff. But and we do have black powder revolvers too, and people do kind of like that, So we have a little bit of everything for the different tastes out there.
So for you personally, then, what is the appeal of shooting a muzzleloader rather than just grabbing your .6 or your 350 Legend or whatever?
I don't know. I just like the fact of, the way you load it and the time that you put into it, and just, I don't know. It just seems peaceful to me, I guess, is the best way I can put it. I just enjoy it.
And I appreciate that. The process of cleaning it, the process of loading it. I mean, there's a certain amount of comfort in there because you've been doing that for years. What do you lose any effective distance, Jeania? Well,
with the technology of today and some of the firearms that they, the black powders that they make, no, you can, they claim some of those will shoot 300-400 yards. Now, would I personally do that myself? No, I'm not there, but I just sold 3 different same muzzleloaders to 3 different individuals that'll be going on a hunt together here shortly, and those muzzleloaders are set up to shoot 300-400 yards, and nowadays some of them will, crazy, isn't it? Some of them will shoot standard powder versus your black powder, which does gain you an advantage, and some of the ignition styles nowadays gains you that advantage. So black powder has come a long way. I personally, like I said, I would never, just based on, my comfort level, I would not shoot the muzzleloader I have at those yardages. But
so what is your effective range on your gun?
I usually sight mine in for at least 200 yards, but the farthest I've taken a whitetail was in Nebraska, and that was 130 yards.
That's still very impressive. So, Jeania, as we're going into the Christmas season here, you look around the gun department there. What's the hot ticket? What's the hot item? What are people coming in looking for Christmas?
Oh, golly sakes, Mike, that's a good question. Everybody seems to have a little different idea of what they want, but we sell a lot of optics during that time of year. Gun cases are always a hot ticket. Lead sleds, any type of bench shooting style stuff are hot tickets. Eyes and ears. It's just a variety of stuff. Chronographs are hot right now, so we have a little bit of everything. We have some new tactical bags that are small in size. Those would be a great gift as well. They're new to us, so we haven't sold a lot, but those are nice. There's just a ton of stuff. Shooting tables are good. There's a bog chair that we sell that we can't keep that thing in stock, so. There's a lot to offer throughout the store. I mean, anybody that's been here knows that.
Yeah,
so.
That's for sure. If it has to do with guns or shooting, Jay's Sporting Goods has it. And Jeania Canel is the manager of the gun department at Jay's Clare store. Jeania, thanks for the insight. Thanks for the info. Always a pleasure, and we'll talk again.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great day.
You as well. Jeania Canel of Jay's Sporting Goods, the website jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. If you go to the gun department, tell him Avery sent you. We'll take a break. When we come back, Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots. Maybe he can help out our food plots next year. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Manistee, WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us, let's go to Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM, 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Truck Trolley. Why? Listen. Why crawl up into the bed of your truck? Why reach all the way over that tailgate with the old man stick to get what's slid to the front of the bed of your truck? Just get yourself a truck trolley. You can install it in your truck in less than a couple of minutes. It comes out just as easy. If you need to haul sand or gravel or mulch or whatever, you just take it out. But what it does is it slides out and allows you access to everything in the bed of your truck. Very slick, family-owned, Michigan-based. I love that. Check them out online at trucktrolley.com, trucktrolley.com. I love Michigan-based family-owned companies, including Killer Food Plots. Rich Chrzan is with Killer Food Plots. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Rich, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine. But listen, I'm a little frustrated, Rich. The food plots that we put in on our lease property, and I say we, my son James worked very hard on these things. He's a sharp guy. He took a lot of work into this, a lot of sweat into this, a lot of money into these food plots, but we just didn't get the results out of them that I was hoping for, Rich, and I suspect there are others across the state in the same boat. When we look back on food plots, what may have gone wrong other than Mother Nature not providing enough rain? I mean, what are the other factors we should consider, Rich?
I mean, I'm not sure the extent that he did. I mean, if he did a soil sample, and he followed that, then it could have just been Mother Nature. But if he didn't do a soil sample, then, that's where it all starts. You may not have had the right combination of fertilizers to amend the soil. Maybe you needed more lime. Those are things. And I don't know how he did it, but, I've said it before, as guys, did he plant too much? Did it come up real fast and then just kind of get that 4 inches, 6 inches, and then just quit growing? That's a good sign of too much seed for the area that you were planting. Very common mistake. A lot of us guys do that. I did it for years, when back before I really knew what I was doing as a hobby. More is better. So there's a lot of factors that can go into that. But, the first thing you start on is your soil sample and get that blueprint for what you're going to what you're going to need to plant what you want, or determine that maybe you can't plant what you want and you need to do something like an oats or a rye or something for a season or two. So
I can't tell if they just didn't come up because we had that terrible drought after they were planted, or if they did come up and the deer just grazed them off before we could get in there. Is there a magic formula, like on our 160 acres of leased property, how many acres of food plot should we have to make sure they don't get overgrazed?
I mean, the amount of property you have really doesn't affect it as much as the deer density. You know, I mean, like I was just in the UP last week, and you could probably get away with in some of them areas with a 1 acre food plot because of the deer herd is so small up there in areas. Like down here, I have a very high population of deer. I have 2 acres of food, and it's not enough. So it really just depends on your deer density. 160 acres, I would try and get about, you know, anywhere from 5 to 10 acres.
Oh, really?
If you can.
Yeah.
The reason I say so much for that, it's not necessary, but you know, if you've got that much area, and if you guys are in there doing deer management, the more food you have, the easier it is to keep the deer on your property. And you know, that's a fair amount of property that could house quite a few deer. So that's why I would suggest that amount of food plots, but you don't need that much to be successful. You know, you can go in and do deer bedding, and habitat, and anything that's really not that disruptive to the woods, right? I'm not saying hinge cut because it's a leased property. So you're probably minimized to what you can do into the woods. So
yeah, we are.
How much are you guys?
And we're also dealing with the fact that the landowners, and you know, they have this right. It is their property. They love to walk the property, but that is another factor too. I'm not saying it's negative because I think the deer get used to that human activity out there, and that may actually work in our favor. But I'm wondering, Rich, and I've talked to James about this, if you would be willing to work with us next year on these food plots, and maybe we can look at it from a different perspective and kind of follow this process through. I think it's a win-win. I think it helps us get maybe better food plots, and we can get, you know, more people thinking and talking about killer food plots. Is this something we could do for next year?
Oh, absolutely, Mike. You know, we just figure out what you guys want to do. If you want to do I think you just do fall plots right now, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just pencil that in. Obviously, you know, we're going to start with a soil sample. How much area are you doing?
We got about 2.5 acres of food plots in there right now.
Okay, good. Yeah, so, you know, I'll definitely want to get over there and take a look at it, and, you know, we'll do the step-by-step soil sample. I'm going
to put you in touch with James because he's the guy, right? I'm just there for moral support and whatever he wants. I try to help him out when I can, but I'm going to connect you two guys. I think this is a wonderful idea, and maybe we can even talk more about this next week on the Killer Food Plots podcast, Rich. But you and I can talk about that offline. Rich Chrzan of Killer Food Plots, the website killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. I'm ready to do whatever we can to try to make it better. Coming up after the top of the hour, Joe Marion talking about staying safe on the ice right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Oh, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across our great state of Michigan. And I say this every week, but I truly, firmly do believe it. The best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM station. They are the heart. They are the backbone. They are the soul of this whole outdoor magazine radio franchise. If you can't listen on your local radio station, if, for example, they don't air all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, it's nice to know that there is a podcast version of the show that's available. Podcasting is huge these days. Everybody has a podcast. And indeed, I have a podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. You can hear that podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page, and it's on all of the usual podcasting outlets, the venues, iHeart, TuneIn, Stitcher, Odyssey. It's even on YouTube. I put it up on YouTube every week. Now, it's not really a video version of the show, but you can listen to it on YouTube. And still in the back of my mind, I do have plans for some kind of a modified video podcast, but I keep getting off track because I keep working on other projects. I do love podcasting, though, and each month I do podcasts for some of my broadcast partners, including Angler Quest Boats, Killer Food Plots, and Offshore Tackle. And the plan is when we are done here in the studio today, we will record this month's Offshore Tackle podcast. Okay, so talking about the season that we're in right now, it looks like Mother Nature has decided that she was going to make it basically wintertime a little bit early this year, right? Most of the state has some snow. Much of the state has cold. I don't know how long it will be before you are ice fishing, but even if you're not, we are certainly in cold water. We're in a cold water area right now. And by area, I mean subject. I don't care if you're not ice fishing. You might be still doing some open water trolling. You might be fishing in the rivers. You might be wading the rivers. And the water's cold enough that you do not want to end up in the water. When I think about this whole concept of cold water safety, even cold water rescue, my mind immediately goes to Joe Marion. I've known Joe for many, many years. I knew him when he was in the Coast Guard. Joe has been instrumental. He has been key in developing cold water rescue techniques for the Coast Guard. He's an avid angler, he's an avid hunter, and he's an all-around good guy, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Joe, welcome back. How have you been, buddy?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Listen, it's always a pleasure. Let's get a little background here. Not about your career, but your fall. How did your deer season go, at least so far?
Well, it was the worst deer season so far in Michigan that I've had ever.
I'm laughing because I can relate.
I know. I'm following you on Facebook.
So what has been your challenge, Joe?
Seeing a buck.
Yeah.
I've seen my share of does. I mean, there's quite a few. There's my one lease. I've got the same 5 does religiously. So they're safe. They're not going anywhere. I need them to keep population going. But I had bucks on camera before the season started, and they all disappeared, and they're gone. And I talked to my neighbors, and a lot of the neighbors didn't do any good. So and the thing is it's not just here. I've talked to a lot of my friends everywhere, and it doesn't matter what part of the state or what part of the country you're from. My friend in Nebraska from the Coast Guard, he is having troubles out there seeing bucks. So maybe it's just a moon phase.
Well, yeah, whatever the reason is, I'm with you, Joe. It's and I'm just trying to put a big doe in the freezer. I'm not giving up yet. Now, you mentioned Coast Guard, though. Let's talk about your career in the Coast Guard. I look at being in the Coast Guard from the outside, and I think, man, What a wonderful opportunity that was. What was it like on the inside?
Oh, I loved it. Get to play with $1 million toys all the time, go out and do things you'd never do with your own equipment, and had the satisfaction of being able to rescue people and take them out of harm's way and bring them back to shore safely is always a good thing. You have the bad stuff thrown in there. I've had my share of body recoveries, and it's not fun. It's not pretty, but it's part of the business. But for the most part, I've rescued more people than I have recovered people.
On those recoveries, when you look back on those, could many of those have been prevented?
Oh, yes. I'm positive that over 50% could have been prevented easily just by people notifying where you're going, where you're fishing, where you're hunting, whether it be duck hunters in the late fall, especially in Saginaw Bay with the diver ducks coming down through, early ice. I mean, I remember spring of 2003, just before I moved over here to Ludington, we recovered 5 bodies from the Saginaw River doing buoy operations in April that we did not know were in the river.
That leaves me speechless. All right, I'm gonna move this conversation along. So what are the mistakes that people commonly make that get them in trouble?
Not wearing the proper gear. Nowadays, it's so simple to get clothing that's fit for ice fishing. I have a snowmobile suit that's all flotation. There's many different companies that make ice fishing gear that have flotation built into it that don't absorb water like the Carhartts do. Carhartts, when you're in the water with a pair of Carhartts, it doesn't feel heavy until you try to get out.
Well, people will say these Mustang suits or these flotation suits, these float coats, well, they're expensive, Joe.
What's the cost you can put on your life? And I'm pretty sure you probably start looking in those secondhand stores, things like that, looking online. Facebook has marketplaces all over the place. You're going to find some of those suits a little bit cheaper than what you'd have to buy them brand new, but they are worth it.
So what is the, if there is such a thing, is there a magic number on water temp where you folks, the safety experts, get concerned, or is it a gradual scale?
It's a gradual scale. The Great Lakes never get warm enough to avoid hypothermia. You got to remember, human body's temperature is 98.6 degrees. So anytime you drop 1 degree, you're going into hypothermia. Your body starts changing, your system starts shutting down, functioning as a life-saving system for your body. It's called the mammalian diving reflex. Dolphins and seals and those animals have that so they can dive in cold water. Everything shuts down on your extremities. And as your temperature cools down, it doesn't take much, take far. At 95 degrees, most people can't function.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you get near freezing water, like we're going to have here soon, what effect does that have on the body? When you go through, because I know you did it during training, when you go through the ice or whatever, just fall into near freezing water, what does it do to you?
It's faster. The colder the water, the faster your temperature drops, the faster your effects happen. It might be a gradual thing when in the water 65 degrees. But when it's 35 degrees, just above freezing at 32, your body's going to start shutting down in a matter of minutes. It doesn't take long. So you don't have the luxury of going, oh, I'm feeling cold. You hit that water, you're cold. Call it the Slurpee head. When your head goes underwater, just like drinking a Slurpee or a Freezy from 7-Eleven or Wesco, depending on what side of the state you're from, and you drink it too fast and you get that brain freeze, that's your worst enemy.
We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Joe Marion, Also, coming up on this week's show, Steve Wyndham of MUCC joins me. Then Sergeant Mike Mshar from the Michigan DNR. The Sarge has details on the upcoming so-called muzzleloader season, what you can use to hunt with. And in hour number 3, noted outdoor writer and hunting expert Richard P. Smith. Richard talks about his deer season so far, including some unusual late-season bear activity. He also previews a downstate book signing tour. And, of course, we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and my email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us in Tawas, where Joe Marion was stationed, on WIOS 1480 AM 106.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, and your, whether it's ice fishing or open water, and your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. You know I love that. Linwood Beach is just, it has a beautiful, wonderful location. It's right there on the shore of Saginaw Bay. Great facilities, great people, great location, and great resources. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Now, we're talking with Joe Marion, a retired Coast Guardsman who served out of the Coast Guard Station Saginaw River for many years. And Joe, when you worked on Saginaw Bay there, I've got to believe ice rescue, ice safety, ice fishing, ice conditions, that was a big part of your job.
It was a huge part. We had a lot of different areas that people really focused on ice fishing out of. Everywhere from Tawas, All Gray, you know, you come down around Bay City State Park, see people going out of Linwood. Then you mouth of the Saginaw River, you got the boat launch right there at the mouth that people would access on the lake and fish out by Channel Island. You know, and then you work your way up the east coast there, and you got Seaboing and Caseville, and those are some very great fishing spots and ice fishing destinations.
I remember at one time the Coast Guard said ice is never safe. And I remember hearing that statement thinking, well, if you look in the front of the Coast Guard Station Saginaw River, there's probably 3,000 ice anglers there. Coast Guard eventually changed their position. And I feel like, Joe, and maybe I'm overstepping here, but I feel like you were a big part of that change in direction.
They did change it a lot because we said people are going to go. You can't tell them they can't go. You can't tell them it's unsafe because they're standing on a foot or 2 foot of ice and they know that it is safe at that time. But it's that transition that the Coast Guard's worried about from no ice to that 5-6 inches where it's safe to be out on. That's where they're talking about no ice. No new ice is safe ice is a good way to put it. Yeah. No old ice is safe ice either because deteriorating ice is worse than the new ice.
And ice is different, right? Ice is not ice is not ice. It changes throughout the season.
It changes throughout the season and how it was made and where it is formed, whether it's river ice, whether it's in the lake and it's slush ice pushed up into little pancake ice and formed that way, where you might have thicker sections, but because it joined together in a weird shape, the spot where it froze, it might only be an inch and you might step right into an open spot.
So I've seen charts in the past, you know, this much ice is safe to walk on, this much is safe for an ATV. I don't even know if I want to get into those because that's, I think maybe you're asking for problems if you start relying on a chart like that, Joe. Should you just rely more on what you see in your own common sense?
That's the best way to go about it. Make sure that it's safe for you. I mean, everybody's different structure, everybody's a different shape, everybody rides a different thing. You know, ATV is a very broad statement nowadays, from 3-wheelers to old 3-wheelers all the way up to side-by-sides that weigh 4 times as much as a 3-wheeler. So, what might hold one is not going to hold another, especially early in the season.
I feel like, and I've seen old timers do this for years, if you're in doubt, get out, get off the quad, get off the sled or whatever, grab your spud and just start chunking the ice.
That's the best way to check. If your spud goes through, you're going through. Back straight up where you're from that hole, because you don't want to get any shallow, any thinner ice. That's the best way to check it. I've seen a lot of people go through with people, or I've seen vehicles go through. So
if you, I mean, anybody listening, I'll say you, but anybody who's listening goes through the ice, do most people have the ability to get themselves out, or are we going to rely on others around us to get us back on the ice?
I think nowadays most people have the equipment and the knowledge. Whether they know how to use that knowledge, it's not everybody goes out there and practices falling through the ice and getting out.
No,
it would be a fun concept on occasions, but no, it's not. It's not something that people practice. And the first thing that interferes with you rescuing yourself is panic.
But you can't. I mean, the average civilian, I don't think you can prepare for that, can you?
No, you can keep telling yourself about it, but until you've actually gone through and felt the cold chill come right up through the Netherlands, there it's different.
So how do we get out of the ice, Joe? Or get back out of the water, back up on the ice?
First of all, like I said, clothing is paramount. Don't wear the old-fashioned Carhartts and stuff like that. That's going to hold water and make you 200-300 pounds heavier than what you normally are, because you're not going to be able to drag that out of the water onto the ice without the ice failing underneath you as you go. Because now, instead of being 200 pounds, you're 600-700 pounds, and it ain't going to work. But flotation stuff helps you be buoyant, helps you slide up on the ice like a seal. And that's where using ice awls, ice picks, modified screwdrivers, your car keys, your pocket knife, whatever you need to dig into the ice to help pull yourself up onto the ice, but sliding up like a seal. Once you get up on the ice and your body's not there, ice isn't cracking, start rolling away from that hole until you're far enough away that you feel safe enough to get up on your knees. If you get up on your knees safely, start crawling. If you can get up on your feet, start walking. If you hear it cracking again, keep staying down low and keep moving further and further away from the hole towards shore, not away from shore.
The hardcore ice anglers I know, they pretty much all carry those ice awls now. And I see them, they're on a cord, they go over their neck, they're hanging by each wrist. I think people have embraced that concept.
Yeah, especially early in the season. I mean, later in the season when the ice is over a foot thick, the ice awls throw in the pocket, or they're thrown into the ice shanty until springtime. But even in the springtime, the ice is starting to break up, it's starting to get honeycomb. Ice awls aren't going to do you much in the spring. It's just going to break up on you.
So if you see somebody going through the ice, how should we try to help them out?
Do not run towards them. Make sure you have a rope. Get help coming first. Whether you have to stop and make the phone call, get the rescue resources heading your direction. Then you can think about helping him, only if you have a rope to throw to him. You do not want to venture close enough to the hole to help him out. Even if you have to push his ice shanty towards him, maybe, a fishing rod, something that you can reach out to him, but don't get next to the hole that he went in, because you're going to go into it with him. But best thing is to have a rope with you, toss him the rope, pull him from a distance, get him up, help him get up on that ice, and then drag him away from that hole so he can get up and get towards shore and get safety to a warm vehicle or to a house.
I've seen these, I don't know, generic term throw bag that the rope comes out of them very smoothly. So they're designed for rescue situations. That would seem like a good idea.
Throw bags are great. They also have frisbees that the line wraps around the outside of it. And when you throw it like a frisbee, it goes to him, and that has a large surface area for him to grab a hold of. The ball is great. That comes into the throw bag. The bag actually has a ball in the bottom of it, and you throw the bag, and it has the weighted ball, and it gets to him, and it gives him something larger to hang on to than just the rope, because you got to realize he's falling through. That water's 34, 35 degrees right underneath the surface, and it's cold, and he's already going into hypothermia. His hands are stopped, or his dexterity is getting harder and harder to use. He may not be able to just hold on to a rope. He's got to have something sturdy to hang on to.
So what? All right. So we get the person out of the ice. Then what do we do? We're trying to warm them up. The old thing, rub snow on them. I don't think that's true at all, is it?
No, don't rub snow on them. You're just making them colder. You got to get them out of the elements. You got to get them into a vehicle with the heater going, and you got to get the wet clothes off of him so that those wet clothes stop cooling him down. And you got to get them in that warm environment, whether it's like a vehicle or a house. Ambulance is the best. They got that plus heat packs.
Well, you mentioned early on, call the cavalry, call 911. I think some people are reluctant to call because they say, I don't want to get all these resources coming if this turns out to be nothing. When should we call, Joe?
You call when you think something is wrong. You think you saw someone fall through, and I'll tell you, I've had people call and say, I looked out there, I saw a quad runner going across the ice, I looked back and it's gone. We went out there, searched, we never found it. Never found a hole, found tracks going back to shore. That's fine. I'd rather go out there and find no one in danger than to not be called and end up having to go out there to do a recovery.
Yeah.
I can always go home.
Yeah.
They got microwaves to heat up my dinner.
Well, I just find it fascinating the years you spent in the Coast Guard, and I think it's a shame that we have to talk each year about this, but I think it's a good idea that we do because, in these outdoor adventures, because every time we go outside, it's an adventure. We start going on the ice or around cold water. I feel like on the water or on the ice, unlike being on shore, when things start to go south, they turn in a hurry, don't they?
They do. And one bad thing turns into 2, 3, 4, and hopefully soon that stops so that you can get rescued and no one else is in danger and it gets taken care of quickly. But it always seems like whenever something happens, there's always a compounding factor somewhere.
Yeah. Well, after you spent your entire career on the water, you decided that wasn't enough. You're still out there fishing all the time. You're a charter captain. You're running charters for Lyle. Charters out of what? Ludington?
Out of Ludington, yes.
Ludington. Real quick, how was the season last year?
Fishing was good. Fishing's still good if you have a boat and want to go out and brave this weather. But they're catching steelhead like crazy in PM Lake trolling. They're still catching a few steelhead and coho out in the big lake. So
what you're saying is the fishing's been better than the deer hunting?
Yes, it has.
All right, Joe. Listen, always a pleasure. I appreciate your time. Thank you for your service and for what you did over the years and helping the Coast Guard to figure out this program and to keep people safe while you're out there, Joe. I appreciate it. Have a good day, buddy.
Can we give one shout out?
Absolutely.
You mentioned I was stationed in Taos, but I also grew up there, so don't want to put all my friends out.
There you go. WIOS in Taos, longtime Outdoor Magazine radio affiliate. I appreciate that very much, as I do all of our radio affiliates. Also appreciate the fact that Joe Marion has taken time out from his day to share some information and insight with us. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Steve Wyndham of MUCC. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM and north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. This time of year right now, though, the folks at Reader have been pretty much busy plowing snow. Whether it's taking care of snow, late season pruning, or getting ready for next spring. I know that's a long ways off now, but it's not too early to start thinking about it. get in touch with the folks at Reader Landscaping. They can help. They do a great job. The website, readerlandscaping.com, readerlandscaping.com. They've been doing it for 60 years, so they know what they're doing. You know what? The folks at MUCC have been doing things for a long time as well, and I know they know what they're doing. Steve Wyndham with MUCC joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Steve, welcome back. How have you been?
Hey, Mike, thanks so much. I've been okay. How about you?
I've been doing okay. The deer have been winning this season, but it's not over yet. What's going on at MUCC these days, Steve? You're still out there trying to get memberships, trying to make money, trying to bring in money. I mean, the quest never really ends, does it?
No, it doesn't. We are still moving forward, doing all the great work that our mission drives us to do, and some cool new updates and announcements. We've got the 2026 youth camp schedule posted and out there. So if you've got a young person who needs their conservation bite, they can get to our youth camp this next summer, where we're going to have a new archery range going in. We've got convention coming up in February, and we're just really getting reset for the legislative sessions and trying to get our priorities in a row to keep pushing for our right to hunt, fish, and trap.
Let's talk about convention. This year it's going to look different.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So convention is going to be at the Suburban Showplace in Novi, February 20th to 22nd. So February 20th to 22nd, it's actually going to be the same weekend as Outdoorama. So anybody who's heading to Novi for Outdoorama, our convention is going to be at the Showplace, Suburban Collection Showplace. We're going to have our usual business of convention where we set our policy agendas, where our member-driven grassroots policy takes place. All the public is welcome to come and view that. Only members can speak, and only voting delegates can actually vote on those policy issues. But it is open to the public to come check it out. And then Saturday night, February 21st, we are going to have a big banquet at the Showplace in their Legacy Ballroom with Kip Adams as our keynote speaker. Kip Adams is the Chief Conservation Officer from NDA. We're hopefully going to have a couple other celebrities, hint, hint, Mike, if you're available, and some good times there in Novi in February.
I think it's interesting that you are aligning this with Outdoorama. Kind of, I don't know, in some ways kind of going back to the roots.
Yeah, we actually used to own and operate Outdoorama a long time ago. But Outdoorama used to be our show. If you haven't paid attention, the logo is very similar to MUCC's logo still currently. So, yeah, it kind of lined up great. Show Span, who produces the show now, has been a great partner of ours over the years. And when we kind of realized the dates aligned pretty good, and it was this time of year to come back to this part of the state, because convention kind of bops around. But coming back to Southeast Michigan, great outdoor show, great convention, great time to be had for everybody.
I think it would be very interesting for folks who are at Outdoorama who have never seen a convention before to just stop by and see how this all works. The first time I saw one, I was like, okay, so this now, I've heard you guys talk about it. This is, I know in conceptually how this works, but to see it in person, to see the dynamics and the logistics and the passion with which many of these people speak, it was very, very interesting and even fascinating.
Yeah, a lot of unique individuals in the room, a lot of passionate individuals in the room, and you really get a sense of how, the true democratic republic was formed long ago, where you have people talking in opposition, talking in support, making amendments from the floor. It all, like you said, in concept you can kind of understand it, but to see it there in person is really empowering, to let you know that this is how my voice is carried to the Capitol and to the decision makers in our state, and my voice is actually heard every year at this event, that I can get up and speak, give my piece, and then cast my vote if I'm a delegate.
We have a lot of great conservation groups here in Michigan, but when I think about MUCC and convention process and how I can't think of another organization out there that allows an individual member to have such a say in how things are done and the policy that is being acted on.
Yeah, I'm not sure there are any. I know there's a couple other quote-unquote grassroots organizations, but I'm not sure how their process works. I know MUCC is unique in giving that individual sportsmen and sportswomen their voice. And, all those other national groups, their state chapters are affiliates with MUCC. So you've got those priorities from Ducks Unlimited and National Beer Association and NWTF. So their local priorities from the national org down is being moved through MUCC because they know MUCC is the one here in Michigan that gets things done.
And you talk about the youth camp, too. Let's not forget, it's not too early to start looking at your calendar for July 31st of next year, the third annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. And, of course, we'll be talking a lot more about that as it gets closer. Steve, thanks for checking in. Always a pleasure. The website, mucc.org, mucc.org. And you and I will be talking again soon, Steve.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great one.
I will. Steve Wyndham of MUCC, mucc.org. There's strength in numbers. The more members MUCC has, the more clout they have in Lansing. And, in fact, beyond. I'm a member of MUCC. I would encourage you to check it out as well. The fee, the amount is ridiculously low. MUCC.org. We'll take a break. When we come back, the Ask Avery segment and talking about muzzleloader season. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us, let's go to Traverse City, WTCM 580 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. You know this by now, but the way the Ask Avery segment works, this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can send a question you want me to answer directly, or maybe you want me to hand it over to DNR or MUCC. Best way to get those questions to me is to send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. This question that I have now is a question I've had so many times I can't even attribute it to one particular listener. But it's about the muzzleloading season. Muzzleloader season used to be a primitive weapon season. Not so much anymore. For details on this, I'm reaching out to Sergeant Mike Mshar of the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. He's with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Sarge, welcome back. Appreciate your time.
You bet. You bet.
Hey, listen, before we get into this, how was your firearm season, either working the season or hunting? You look back on it, good season or not so good, Mike?
Worldwide, it was slow. I'll be honest with you. There just, there was pockets where people out, and there was pockets where I expected to see people, and there wasn't. A lot of private land where there just wasn't people. Box blinds where nobody was in them, which was surprising being a weekend opener. That really took us a little bit by shock, especially in the northern lower. So, I don't. I've got some guesses on why that's happening, but I'm not sure. But otherwise, it picked up a little bit later on towards the end here. But overall, I think it was a little slow.
What did the ice storm play a factor in this at all? Access to these spots?
100%, and it will again with this elk hunt that's coming up. That ice storm has changed things drastically up here. I can't, it's a broken record, but it has. It's just changed the deer movement. It's changed the animal movement, and it's changed access. You just can't get into a lot of these areas in the woods. Just inaccessible.
All right, let's turn our attention to the muzzleloader season. Used to be a primitive weapon season. Not so much anymore, Sarge.
Yeah, so I get the question all the time, too, and I scratch my head sometimes with the name, but I know how that works, too. They have to open up those laws in order to change the names. And so this came about to get more people in the woods, to get more, antlerless animals killed, to give more people an opportunity to do that. So they open it up to basically any legal weapon. It's still called muzzleloader, but I'm sure that may change down the road once they open those back up in the books. But so basically, any legal weapon. So if you could use that weapon in the area you're hunting during the firearm deer season, you can use that weapon now.
30-06, 450, 350 Legend. I mean,
yep. You got
anything.
It's basically, it's an extension of our firearm deer season. We have another. It's like we had a break, and now we got another firearm deer season opening up. And again, you got to look at it's giving people another opportunity who maybe had to work, whatever, couldn't get vacation. But it's also, and I can't stress this enough, we got to kill more antlerless. We just have to. And there's a lot of areas where they're overpopulated. So this is a great opportunity for people to get out there and do that, fill those doe tags.
All right, but speaking of tags, if you still have, say, a combo tag left over from the regular firearm season, can you use that?
Yeah, they're still usable.
Yeah,
you bet.
yeah,
This is, it's a muzzleloader season, but you can use a non-muzzleloader. Yep.
Yeah.
So if you got your buck tags, you're still able to use them.
And this is Lower Peninsula only, correct? Because I think in the UP you still have to use a muzzleloader for whatever reason.
Correct. Correct.
They didn't ask you or I on those regulations.
They don't. And I just I read the book just like you do.
And that's interesting, though, because you as game wardens, you are the ones in the field. You are the face of the DNR. So I think sometimes people look at you guys and they think you're not only enforcing laws, you're coming up with policy, you're coming up with deer regulations. Yeah. Interesting spot you folks find yourselves in.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. We don't, the COs, we don't make the laws. Yeah, you're right. We just enforce them. And so we do find ourselves kind of backed up against the wall sometimes, but it's our job, and we love doing it.
And I appreciate that, Mike. Sergeant Mike Mshar from the DNR. Have a good muzzleloader season and beyond, and I'm sure you and I will talk again.
You bet. Take care.
All right. You too as well, Mike. Sergeant Mike Mshar of the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. He is a conservation officer. He's not a biologist. He's not a wildlife biologist. He's not a fisheries biologist. He's not even a wildlife technician. He is a conservation officer, a game warden. And all too often, and I saw this personally, I saw this with my own eyes, people complaining to officers about policy. And they don't have any more input into this. Well, they do. I mean, sometimes I think the biologists hopefully reach out to them and say, what do you think? But as far as the official process, no, they don't have any more say than you or I do. All right, we'll take a break. Thank you, Mike, for that. I appreciate it. And thank you, Security Credit Union, for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. I will be out during the muzzleloader season with my .350 Legend, a centerfire rifle. The first time I did it, I thought, this isn't right, but it was legal, and it is, and I will take advantage of it. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back at our third and final hour, Richard P. Smith and Dixie Dave Minar coming up in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this first Outdoor Magazine radio show for the month of December. Man, this year went by fast, didn't it? Not only did this year go by fast, I feel like the individual seasons have gone by so fast. Right now, I'm thinking about deer season. It feels like it was just 2 weeks ago that we started bow season back in early October. Maybe for some of you, if you were able to take advantage of the special seasons, your deer hunting actually started the middle of September. But now our Michigan deer herd, man, these critters have been hunted hard since basically mid-September, beginning of October, through the bow season, through 2 weeks of firearm season, and now into the muzzleloader season. And in the Lower Peninsula, muzzleloader season is in name only because it's any legal rifle during the firearm season you can now use during the muzzleloader season. I'll be out there with my 350 Legend. Now, those rules do not apply, I don't think, for the UP. UP is still muzzleloader only. I don't know. It's, I'm not a Uper. I'm a troll. I live below the bridge. But when I look at sometimes the regulations for the UP, like not being able to use a crossbow during the late season and not being able to use a muzzleloader and during the muzzleloader season when the rest of the state can, although our Uper friends can bait for deer, which I think we should be able to do in the lower, but I don't think that's going to happen soon. The reason I'm talking about the Upper Peninsula is my guest this hour is Richard P. Smith. Richard is a very, very well-known outdoor writer. In my opinion, he is a deer and bear hunting expert as well. And so it just seemed like a good time to check in with Richard, especially since he's going to be doing his downstate book tour very soon as well. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Richard, welcome back to the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing good, Richard, but I got to be honest. I have been struggling this deer season. I mean, honestly, my bar is very low. I just want to shoot a mature doe for the freezer, and I haven't even been able to do that, Richard. I know some people look at me and go, "Well, that's pathetic," but I have not seen a mature doe this season to even take a shot at. But it is what it is. There's still time.
Yeah, exactly.
How about your deer season, buddy? How was it, and how has it continued to be going?
Well, it was a struggle for me also. I saw a couple legal bucks, but I wasn't able to get good shots at them. So I haven't filled a tag yet. And we got dumped on the day before Thanksgiving, on November 26th. I was snowed in a cabin in Keweenaw County with the heavy snow and strong winds up to 40 miles an hour or stronger on the 26th. And we got a foot to a foot and a half of snow. It blocked access to two of my best stands where I was planning on trying to fill a buck tag. So I ended gun season without a filled tag. However, I'm looking for an adult doe during muzzleloader season, hopefully.
And am I correct that for the UP during muzzleloader season, you have to use a muzzleloader?
That's correct. That's the firearms that we're limited to. But it's not that much of a disadvantage except having one shot. Most modern muzzleloaders are pretty accurate and very effective, but you still got to wait for a good shot.
But I wonder why. If the lower is open to center fire rifles, why does the UP have a different regulation?
Well, you have far more deer in southern Michigan than we do in the UP, and I think part of the reason for the unlimited firearms in the lower peninsula is to increase the harvest.
Yeah. So does that same rationale then hold through to not using crossbows in the late season?
Well, it's an uneducated mindset among a group of hunters who've lobbied the DNR and Natural Resources Commission to prevent the use of crossbows during the late archery season. There's no biological reason that crossbows cannot be used in the Upper Peninsula. Whether you shoot a deer with a crossbow during October or November or December, you're doing your part to manage the UP deer herd. In fact, we could use more antlerless deer harvested during our hunting season to ensure the survival of the remaining deer during our severe winters. Already we've got 48 inches of snow in the Upper Peninsula. If this snow continues, it could be a severe winter. We could lose some deer. It would have been far better for hunters to harvest some of those deer than lose them during the winter.
So has that forced your UP deer herd into the yards already?
Some of them are migrating. That's correct. We have migratory deer population, especially in the northern UP, when we get approximately a foot or more of snow, deer start moving toward their winter yard areas. In the Upper Peninsula, 21% of the land mass in the UP is devoted to deer yards. So all the deer in the UP are crammed into 20% of the land mass in the Upper Peninsula during the winter.
Well, the whole concept of deer yards is something that's foreign to those of us here below the bridge. But I know there's a lot of discussion about the loss of those yards, the loss of habitat, and there is no short-term solution for that, is there?
No, there isn't. And the quality of the deer yards that are remaining has been reduced by trying to carry too many deer during our severe winters. And our current strict harvest regulations, like no crossbows during the late archery season, both buck tags being antler restrictions in the Upper Peninsula, have resulted in trying to carry too many deer. And between 2015 and this fall, does were off limits to bow hunters in the UP. Those severe restrictions have prevented hunters from harvesting enough deer to properly manage them.
Did you see the end of season DNR report on the firearm season, the harvest numbers?
No, I didn't. I heard it was down a little bit.
Yeah. Can I give you a couple numbers? I hate to talk about numbers, but I want to get your perspective on this, okay?
Sure.
126,000 and change for the firearm season, and that is down a little bit over last year and down considerably over 2022. Do those numbers, I mean, some people just geek out on statistics. I don't know how seriously I take them, but are we seeing a trend here for sure, though, Richard?
We are seeing somewhat of a trend, but a big part of that trend is the number of hunters who don't report their kills. Those numbers you mentioned are from mandatory reporting.
Yes.
In the last 2 years, there's been as high as 30% of hunters who haven't reported their kill, based on the DNR Deer Hunter Survey that comes out later in 2026.
Is there a better way to keep track of those? Keep track of the harvest?
The Deer Hunter Survey that DNR has conducted for many, many years is more accurate than mandatory reporting. However, the number of people responding to that survey has been declining in recent years, unfortunately. I don't understand why people don't respond to a deer hunter survey to provide data that's important in providing more accurate information than mandatory reporting when so many people don't report.
Does that go back, though, to a basic mistrust of the DNR by a significant percentage of Michigan deer hunters?
Sure, it does. And part of that frustration is hunting regulations and what hunters are seeing in the field.
How so?
Well, in the Upper Peninsula, in the northern part, hunters are not seeing many deer. They blame the DNR for not better managing the Upper Peninsula deer population. But unfortunately, a lot of those hunters are misinformed about proper deer management. And that's why we have more restrictive harvest regulations. We protect deer from hunters so they can die during the winter. If you use a little bit of common sense, that doesn't make sense. But that's the mentality of a lot of UP deer hunters.
Let's follow up on this, Richard. I want to follow up on this and also the concept of, do wolves actually play a role, or is this just something hunters like to talk about? And a lot of other topics, including your downstate books tour. We're talking with Richard P. Smith. His website is richardpsmith.com. That's richardpsmith.com. Lots more to talk about with Richard. And, of course, we will wrap up this week's show, as we always do, with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us just down the road in Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. We're looking at doing something different for our food plots next year. My son James put a lot of work into these food plots, a lot of time, a lot of sweat, a lot of effort, a lot of money, and they just didn't attract or hold deer like we were hoping. So I've reached out to Rich at Killer Food Plots, so we're going to work more closely with Rich next year on trying to get food plots that will hold deer onto our lease property. If you are dealing with a similar situation, hey, you can reach out to Rich as well. The website is killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Talking right now, continuing on this deer hunting theme with Richard P. Smith, his website, richardpsmith.com, richardpsmith.com. Richard, before I get too far down the road there, I remember seeing something from you earlier in the season, and this is before the big snow, where you were actually seeing a lot of bear activity at your deer baits.
For the first time, I had more bear than deer on my deer baits. And I've heard from other hunters in the UP where they've experienced the same thing. And that's because of our high bear population. I had as many as 10 bears on one bait.
Wow.
And most of them were sows and cubs. One female had 3 cubs, one had 2, and one had 1. And the DNR does not include cubs in their population estimate. I had 6 bears on one bait that the DNR doesn't count in their estimates. And I know many other hunters had sows with cubs on their baits as well. We've got far more bear than the DNR is estimating.
And were they active later in the fall this year? Again, before the snow, did the weather keep them out longer?
Well, that did, but we also had a bumper acorn crop this year. When there is a bumper crop of natural food, like acorns, bears will delay denning to take advantage of that food source, put more weight on. And, of course, hunters' baits provide more food as well. I had a bear. I ran 3 deer baits, and I had bears on all of them. One had 10, and the other 2 had 1 bear each. I had a bear on one of my baits until November 28th.
Wow.
After we got the snow.
Wow. You know, I hear about your deer baits, and I got to be honest, I'm a little bit jealous. I'm wishing we could do that here in the Lower Peninsula as well. Now, some people could look at me, and this is justified criticism, saying, Avery, if you were a better hunter, you wouldn't need bait. All right, I will admit to that. But also, if the DNR wants us to shoot more animals, particularly does, you know, give us the tools to help us do that. And I think for the average weekend warrior like me, bait can be a really great tool for that.
Exactly. And there's no biological reason to not have baiting legal in the Lower Peninsula. In fact, there is biological reason that by not allowing hunters to use bait and harvest more deer, it increases the spread of disease among the deer population. No question about it.
Well, and of course, that's the reasoning. You know, bait brings deer in contact and it spreads CWD. I got to be honest, I'm more concerned with EHD than I am CWD. I feel like that has a much bigger impact on a local deer population than CWD does, at least in the short term.
Correct. But the logic that they're claiming that the use of bait spreads CWD is false. I've walked with whitetails of both sexes and all ages for 30 years now. They have more close social contact away from baits than they do at baits. And what close social contact occurs at baits is between related deer that already have daily social contact wherever they are. There is no biological justification for banning baiting to reduce the spread of disease. It does the opposite. It increases the spread of disease. If you look at the prevalence rate of tuberculosis in the northeastern Lower Peninsula, that prevalence rate has not gone down. It fluctuates up and down, but it hasn't gone down since bait was banned in 2002. And in fact, a study done in 2001 before bait was banned in that unit showed that hunters using bait had much higher success than those not using bait.
Well, anecdotally, I can attest to that. I mean, in the area that we are, I was talking about our food plots earlier, we have a beautiful piece of leased property, but there's really it doesn't hold deer unless we give it a reason to hold deer. I can't hunt over bait. I mean, I would like to, but I can't do it because I cannot afford to get caught hunting over bait. I won't do it.
Right.
So we did, what the DNR says, put in food plots. Well, the food plots were of limited success. Yeah.
And major financial investment.
It was. Honestly, it was. Yes, and time too, which we don't mind doing if we get
the results.
The results. Yes, thank you. Yes. This whole concept of wildlife management in Michigan, and I'm sure it's not just Michigan, it's beyond, but boy, it's like this giant chess game. It's like a 3D chess game with so many moving parts and so many things going on. And these days, you've got the social implications, ramifications, which really shouldn't play a role, but I think it does. It's a very interesting scenario, isn't it, Richard?
It is, but unfortunately, we have people making these regulations who don't have as much experience with deer behavior and social interaction of whitetails as I do. No one in the wildlife division has walked with whitetails and seen actual deer behavior like I have for many years.
Have you ever been asked by a biologist for your thoughts or input?
Are you kidding?
I was just trying to... Okay, I'll take that as a no.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Oh, so where else should we go with this conversation, Richard? I could go back to deer yards. I mean, you tell me where you want to go with this. We got to make sure we leave time for your book tour as well. But what do you think are the key things we need to bring up this week?
Well, I mentioned that a lot of UP hunters are in support of restricting deer hunters from harvesting deer. There's now a push underway to go to a 1 buck bag limit in the UP, which would further restrict harvest of deer in the UP without benefiting the resource. The hunters who are supporting it claim we need to do that to benefit the resource. Well, the DNR data shows that during 2024, 2.6% of UP hunters shot 2 bucks. If you do the math, that ends up being 661 bucks. Going to a 1 buck bag limit is not going to help the resource. It'll eliminate thousands and thousands of hours of recreation among hunters like me who hunt for a second buck and never kill one. In fact, I haven't killed one this year so far. In fact, most hunters don't kill 1 buck. Going to a 1 buck bag limit is not going to benefit the resource, but it's going to reduce even more hunter recreation. That's a new topic that we didn't talk about.
Well, but a lot of hunters are calling for this. I see this online all the time. They're like, Michigan DNR, get off your rear ends, give us a 1 buck limit, like some of these other states. So I don't know if you can win. If I was a biologist in Lansing, and I don't want that job because I don't think you obviously can't please everybody. But if you've got hunters calling for a 1 buck and you're saying from a biological perspective, Richard P. Smith, that doesn't make sense, I don't know how you win this.
Well, you can win it by using data from the one area in the state that has a 1 buck bag limit. Drummond Island has a 1 buck bag limit. They went to a 1 buck bag limit with antler restrictions. That 1 buck had to have at least 3 points on one side. They went to that restriction in 2017. The local residents who supported figured we're going to have more adult bucks. We're going to have the success on bucks is going to go up. Guess what? It has not. the hunter's success on bucks on Drummond Island, where there's a 1 buck bag limit with 3-point antler restrictions, usually the buck hunting success is lower on Drummond Island than the eastern UP mainland, where there's a 2 buck bag limit. You use that data to show people it doesn't work in the UP. You can't compare Indiana with the UP, where they don't have any winter.
You can't even compare Lower Michigan with the UP, can you? As far as deer management.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Richard,
going to a 1 buck bag. Go ahead.
No, well, I was for the sake of time. You're coming downstate on your yearly pre-Christmas book tour, correct?
Yes. I'm going to be in Schuler Books in Grand Rapids today, Saturday, December 6th, until 6 o'clock. And then I'm going to be at Schuler Books in Okemos the following week on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from noon on. And then Jay's Sporting Goods in Gaylord on December 19th, and Jay's in Clare on December 20th and 21st.
This is something you've been doing for many years now, isn't it?
Yes. Well, people are always looking for Christmas gifts at this time of year, and they make good gifts.
They make great
for hunters
gifts.
On their list.
And it's a chance for people to talk with you. I mean, they hear you here on the radio show. They read your writing. And I find you to be a very interesting, even a fascinating person, because every time we talk, you get my mind, you get my wheels turning and thinking about other things. And Richard, I appreciate that. And I would encourage people to seek you out on this book tour to get a chance, not only to buy your books, but to shoot the breeze with you for a couple of minutes and pick your brain in person. I think people would find it to be an interesting conversation, Richard. So have fun. Good luck on the book tour, and you and I will talk again.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. Nice talking to you.
Always a pleasure. Richard P. Smith, a member, by the way, of the Michigan Outdoor Hall of Fame. I honestly just got chills when I said that. That is the ultimate for somebody in my line of work. Like Richard being inducted into the Michigan Outdoor Hall of Fame. How cool is that? That represents years and years of writing and speaking and in the field research. So congrats to Richard. RichardPSmith.com is the website, RichardPSmith.com. We'll take a break, a few more things to talk about, then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show. Let's see. We've got, looks like we've got just WSGW in Saginaw left. Of all the affiliates I've worked through, and WMIQ in Iron Mountain. Don't want to forget our friends at Iron Mountain. 1450 AM, WMIQ in Iron Mountain. Also, WSGW in Saginaw, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I am in the studios of WSGW. Right now, here with Charlie Rue, doing a wonderful job as always. And once again, today, I was a special guest on the morning show. And they actually said my name this time. So, Charlie, I appreciate that. I owe you for that one. And the weather outside is frightful, and so there is no crowd out there being delightful saying, Charlie, Charlie. But the cool thing that is going on right now is that this segment of Outdoor Magazine, brought to you by Rapid River Knives. That's the sound of my knife locking back open. I just took it out of my pocket. This one happens to be the Mike Avery signature edition of the Rapid River Knife. Proceeds from this knife go to Outdoor Driven, a group whose goal is to get first responders and vets on outdoor adventures. How much better? What higher calling can you have than that? So I'm very proud to be working with the folks at Outdoor Driven and Rapid River on this knife. If you want a Rapid River knife for Christmas, I'm very, very sorry to say that you're probably not going to get it. If you don't have it in the works right now, if you don't have it in the pipeline, like I do, I have a few knives. Don't tell anybody. There's Christmas presents. You're probably going to have to wait till after the 1st. It's worth a try, though. If you go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com, you can use the promo code MikeAvery15 and get 15% off everything on the store except for the Mike Avery signature knife. Now, sorry to say you probably will not get those knives in time for Christmas. But don't say I didn't warn you, because I've been talking about this for several weeks now. If you are in the Yoop this holiday season and you want to see the store, it is still worth stopping by. Maybe the selection of knives won't be so great, but there are plenty of other things to see there at the store, including some wonderful mounts, taxidermy work, Rapid River apparel, and maybe if you're lucky, Chris Durson himself will be in the shop and you can have a chance to say hi to him. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Again, use the promo code MikeAvery15 to save 15%. And right after Christmas, all the folks at Rapid River will be working to replenish the supply. So there will be more knives available. I'm thinking about the conversation with Richard P. Smith in the previous segment. He is, as I told Richard at the end of our conversation, he is one of those guys who gets me thinking. I equate it to the fishing world. Like if I talk to a Mark Romanek or a Lance Valentine, those guys do the same to me in the fishing world. They have a way of looking at things and dissecting things. And when I hear them talk, it makes me open my mind and look at different perspectives. Richard does the same thing to me, primarily deer hunting and bear hunting as well. Much of what I've ever learned about bear hunting, other than seeing it directly in the field firsthand with my eyes, I learned from Richard. But I would not want to be a Michigan DNR wildlife biologist. I give those people a lot of credit because they are in a job that in many ways they can't win. They can't make everybody happy. So I think in talking with these folks, I think they have just realized that, look, we're not going to make everybody happy, so we're going to try to do the best job that we can. But unfortunately, a significant percentage of Michigan deer hunters don't believe that those biologists are really trying to do a good job. Now, I don't buy into that because I don't know why a Michigan DNR wildlife biologist would intentionally tank the Michigan deer hunting program. I don't see an upside to that. I don't see a reason for doing that, and I don't believe it's happening. Do I agree with everything that they are doing? Of course not. Of course not. But I don't agree with everything of anybody I work with. Charlie Root, I don't even agree with everything Charlie says, and he's a good friend of mine. So I think it makes sense to disagree or be suspect about some parts of a program or a philosophy or a way of looking at things. That's just, I think, common sense, and I think that is a smart thing to do. But, you know, I don't, well, for example, how often have you heard people say, I hate the DNR, I don't believe anything they say, I think everything they say is a lie? I hear that a lot, and I see that online a lot. That obviously, well, to me it's obvious, that is a very misguided perception, I think. You know, I don't hate the DNR. Do I disagree with them sometimes? Absolutely. Does any deer hunter disagree with them? Absolutely. But I wouldn't want their job. I question some of the decisions lately, but I'm not a biologist. And you know what? I bet you're not either, right? So you're not looking at things from the perspective of a wildlife biologist, and neither am I. I look at it as from the perspective of a very bad deer hunter. So what credibility do I carry? None. We'll take a break. When we come back, Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Minar. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here on the Outdoor Magazine show. A lot of different things you could be doing right now. A lot of different content you could be consuming, things you could be watching, things you could be listening to, things you could be doing in the real world, like, out there on the water or the ice or in the snow or in the woods, whatever your passion is right now. But the fact that you're hearing my voice, whether it's the broadcast version of the show or the podcast version, thank you so much. I do certainly appreciate it. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. Also wouldn't be able to do this without, support of so many people over all these years, including wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar. I've been working with Dave back since we had the TV show. His recipes were a very, very popular part of the show, and they are proving to be very popular on the radio show as well. David, welcome back. How are you?
Pretty good, Michael, and yourself?
I'm doing great. And I just need to bring this up again, this concept of reprinting a limited edition of your cookbook, Dave. We brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, man, I hope Dave does this. I hope Dave does this. So I think there is a market out there, Dave.
Okay, I just haven't heard back yet. I'll try again.
Well, you would make people happy if you did that, and you'll make me happy if you come up with a recipe for this week.
Well, we have portobello and venison. It's we did this for the TV show when we were filming for TV5.
Well, we were never filming for TV5. We were always filming for Mike Avery, and it happened to air on TV5. I just want to make that clarification.
Okay. So portobello mushroom is a very large, firm mushroom.
I remember this one, and it's a very impressive-looking dish, too.
It is. I know it. In puttanesca, which is a portobello and venison puttanesca refers to the lady of the evening. The sauce is sinfully good.
I remember.
Right. So we need 6 ounces of venison steak per person, 1 large mushroom portobello cap per person, and this could be for 4 portions, a 12-ounce can of whole peeled tomatoes drained and diced large, or you can buy it already diced, half a cup of sliced and pitted Kalamata black olives, a teaspoon or 2 of capers, more or less to your taste, a medium onion diced fine, a yellow onion sliced medium thick, not too big, because you want to cook this fast. 2 to 3 cloves of garlic diced fine, a jar of beef gravy, 1 to 2 ounces of bourbon. Jim Beam is a good one to use. 2 to 3 ounces of Marsala wine, sweet Marsala, not to get the regular one. You want the dessert Marsala. Flour to dredge and olive oil to saute, and you're going to grate a lot of fresh black pepper all over the meat before you do anything with it. Or you're going to slightly flatten out the venison between 2 sheets of plastic wrap, and you're going to cut the stems off the mushrooms and throw them away. You won't need them. Dredge the meat in the capsaicin flour. And in a very hot pan, brown the steaks in a small amount of olive oil. Remove while very rare. You don't want to cook this very much because it's going to go back in the sauce for a little while. Then it'll finish cooking. Add, after you take them, remove it. Take them out of the fry pan, put it on the side there. Add more oil and brown the caps on both sides. Remove. You only want to cook it about, say, 3 minutes or so on each side. In the same pan with a small amount of olive oil again. And if need be, you can wipe it out. Saute the onions, the garlic, and the yellow peppers for a few minutes. And then you can add the Marsala wine and then the Jim Beam, and it won't poof up as intensely. So you might not even have to remove it from the stove top. Add the diced tomatoes and the gravy and reduce this fast. I mean, you want it on high by about half. So you're going to concentrate the flavor. Now put the mushroom caps back in the sauce and cover them up. And you might have to do it one at a time depending on how big of a saute pan you have. Might take 3 to 4 minutes per side. Maybe not per side, but for the whole thing. Add the meat back into the sauce and finish cooking to about medium rare. Cook only to medium rare to medium. place the mushroom caps on the plate first with the gill side up, and place the steaks on the sauce and spoon the sauce over the side of both. And we had so many requests for this. And we used to do this at the restaurant too. We used to saute this up, and people loved it.
It's just visually such an impressive dish. I remember this one specifically, because of the line. It's sinfully good, but also just the look of the dish. Dave, you came up with a winner on this one, so nice job.
Yeah, well, thank you. We used to sell this at the restaurant, and people loved it.
Well, and they can try your cooking in person these days on a limited basis at King's Dish in Standish. Which nights of the week, Dave?
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday after 4 o'clock.
Perfect. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. Just a great guy. But you know what? You are a big part of the show as well, because as I said earlier, if you weren't listening, if you weren't watching, if you weren't following me on social media, if you weren't watching the live streams, there'd be no reason to do this. And I don't know. I'm not ready to retire yet. I will leave that in God's hands, but I am not ready. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. It's a pleasure to do this. It's a blessing. I look forward to it every week, and I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.